Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to basically take a whole load of information, boil it down, and give you the core knowledge you need fast. No overwhelm.
Exactly. Your shortcut to getting up to speed. We do the digging, you get the insights.
And today, we're diving deep into gaming controllers. We're looking at the global market for 2025 and, what happens next.
Right. We've got this pretty comprehensive market research report. It's packed with stuff, market size, growth forecasts, regions, segments, the works.
So our mission, if you will, is to pull out the really key stuff, the most interesting bits about where gaming controllers are right now and where they seem to be going.
Yeah. What are the big numbers telling us? Which parts of the world are hotspots? What's actually driving all this change?
Okay, let's get into it then. The report kicks off with the overall size, global gaming controller market. For 2025, it's looking at USD 36.24 billion, which sounds pretty substantial.
It is. And importantly, that's not the ceiling. The report shows a really strong growth path ahead.
Yeah, it does. By 2033, they're projecting it'll hit USD 66.58 billion. That's nearly double.
It's a big jump. And the report gives us the compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, to understand that pace. It's 7.90% between 2025 and 2033.
Okay, so CAGR, remind us quickly what that means.
Sure. Think of it like the average growth rate each year smoothed out over that whole period. So growing at almost 8% a year, consistently for 8 years? That's pretty healthy growth.
Right, nearly 8% year on year. So what's fueling this? What's the main engine here?
Well, a big driver, according to this report, is the boom in esports and competitive gaming. It just keeps getting bigger.
Makes sense. More pro players, bigger tournaments, bigger audiences.
Exactly. And all those players, pro or aspiring, they need good gear. High-quality controllers are definitely part of that equation.
That totally tracks. Okay, so that's the global view. What about geographically? Where's the money? Where's the growth? The report breaks it down by region. Yeah.
It does. And in 2025, North America is clearly out front. USD 13.41 billion.
Wow. Okay. What share is that globally?
That's over 40% of the whole market. So yeah, dominant.
Over 40%. And their growth, is it keeping pace?
Their projected CAGR is 6.7% through to 2033. Solid, definitely solid growth, but not the fastest we'll see.
Okay. So 6.7% for North America. What about Europe?
Europe's next. In 2025, they're looking at USD 10.51 billion. That puts them at just over 30% market share.
Got it. And their growth forecast?
Also 6.7% CAGR. So pretty much neck and neck with North America in terms of growth pace.
Interesting. So North America and Europe are the big established players right now. But I keep hearing about Asia Pacific being a hotspot for gaming. What does the report say?
You heard right. APAC in 2025 is at USD 8.70 billion. That's around 23% of the global market.
Okay, so smaller share currently.
But, and this is the key thing, APAC is where the explosive growth is happening. The report projects a CAGR of 10.7% for 2025 to 2033.
Whoa, 10.7%. That's significantly higher. What's behind that surge?
It's a few things coming together. Esports is massive and growing fast there, just globally, but maybe even more intensely in some areas. Plus, you've got huge adoption of smartphone gaming, and console gaming is taking off too.
And connectivity must play a role.
Absolutely. Better, more widespread internet access in key countries. The report mentions China, Japan, India specifically, is just bringing millions of new people into online gaming.
Right. More players, more demand for controllers.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. Does it break down growth within APAC? Any standout countries?
It does, yeah. And some numbers really jump out. India, for example, is forecast at 12.6% CAGR.
4.6.
Yeah. Singapore at 11%, China at 10.2%. So you can really see the momentum building in specific parts of Asia. It really highlights the dynamism there.
Those are really impressive figures. What about the other regions mentioned? Middle East, Africa, South America?
Yep, they're covered too. Their market sizes are smaller for 2025. Middle East around USD 1.45 billion, Africa at 0.80 billion, South America about 1.38 billion.
They're growing.
Definitely growing, and quite healthily. Middle East CAGR is 8.4%, Africa 7.6%, South America 8.3%. So while they're smaller pieces of the pie now, they're absolutely growing markets to keep an eye on.
Okay, great regional overview. Now, this report, it mentions something specific, right? The impact of Trump's tariffs,
Yeah.
the Liberation Day tariffs from 2025. Sounds like a potential curveball.
It is, yeah. The report specifically factors in the expected impact of these tariffs. It mentions they're kind of broad, hitting various countries, plus universal ones on steel, aluminum auto parts.
But how does that filter down to gaming controllers? That's electronics mainly.
Right. And the electronics sector is definitely feeling it, especially with the whole U.S.-China trade situation. The report points out tariffs on some Chinese goods going as high as 145% in certain sectors. That includes stuff relevant here like semiconductors and consumer electronics.
145% is huge. Are there specific examples for controller parts?
Yes. The report mentions 25% tariffs on semiconductors, the chips inside, basically, 20% on lithium-ion batteries, for wireless controllers, and then a range like 10 to 15% on consumer electronics generally, which controllers fall under.
Okay, so what does that actually do to the market? What are the consequences?
Well, the immediate things are messed up supply chains. Companies had their systems and now they're disrupted. And of course, increased cost for components.
Which could mean higher prices for us, the gamers.
That's the potential knock-on effect, yeah. Higher retail prices.
So how are companies reacting? Are they just absorbing this?
No, they're definitely reacting. The report says companies are looking hard at their suppliers, maybe shifting sourcing to other countries if possible. Some are even looking at redesigning products to use fewer of the heavily taxed components.
That's a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean China's role is shrinking in electronics?
Well, interestingly, the report stresses that China is still a massive player in electronics exports, even with the tariffs. It's complex, Even if a product is assembled elsewhere, many of the core components might still originate in China. The supply chain is really deeply interconnected.
So navigating this tariff landscape sounds incredibly complex.
Absolutely. And the report kind of underlines this. It says accurate market research is even more critical now. Companies need good data to figure out costs, find new suppliers, understand how demand might shift. It's a volatile situation.
Okay. Let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the controllers themselves. How does the market break down by product type?
Right. So you've got your gamepads, joysticks, steering wheels, paddles, all that stuff. The report expects gamepads to keep dominating the market share.
Not a huge shock there. They're kind of the standard, aren't they? Why are they staying on top?
Yeah, pretty much. It comes down to wide compatibility. They work on consoles, PCs, even mobile now. They're generally ergonomic, easy to use, and they keep getting better features like haptic feedback.
That's the rumble and stuff.
Exactly. The vibrations, the sensations that make games feel more immersive. Plus, the big console makers pour a lot of R&D into their pack-in gamepads.
Okay. So gamepads lead. Any other types showing interesting moves? Anything growing particularly fast?
Definitely. The report singles out steering wheels as the fastest growing segment.
Ah, for the racing sim fans.
Precisely. Racing sims and esports racing are getting really popular. And these wheels offer, force feedback, feeling the resistance of the road, and work great with VR. It adds a whole layer of realism that people are willing to pay for. Imagine actually feeling the car drift.
Yeah, I can see the appeal. Okay, what about compatibility? Dividing the market by platform, is it still all about consoles?
Consoles definitely hold the largest share by compatibility, according to the report. Makes sense, right? Huge install base, and controllers usually come bundled with the console.
Right, but what about PC and mobile?
Well, PC is significant, of course, but the mobile segment is seeing really rapid expansion.
Mobile. Interesting. Why is that?
It's directly tied to the explosion in mobile gaming, and also cloud gaming services streaming console-quality games to your phone. People want a better control method than just touchscreens for those games, so there's a growing market for mobile-compatible controllers.
Got it. So mobile is carving out a bigger niche. Now, connectivity. Wired versus wireless. What's the picture there?
So right now, wired controllers actually have the larger market share.
Really? I'd have thought wireless was taking over.
Well, the report suggests wired is still preferred by many, especially competitive gamers, because of potentially lower latency, that slight delay, and just guaranteed reliability. No battery worries, no interference.
Okay, fair point for the hardcore crowd.
Yeah.
But wireless must be growing.
Oh, absolutely. Wireless is the segment growing rapidly. Convenience is obviously huge, but the tech has gotten much better to lower latency, wireless, longer battery life. And again, think about mobile and cloud gaming. You don't want a wire tethering you to your phone or tablet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, one more segmentation, the end user. Who's buying these? Mostly individuals.
Yes, the personal segment that's individual gamers buying for themselves holds the biggest share. That's the bulk of the market, naturally.
But is there a commercial side to it?
There is, and it's growing strongly. Think about esports venues, VR arcades, gaming lounges. They need controllers, often lots of them, and usually durable, high-quality ones. So that commercial segment is expanding quite fast.
Right, the rise of gaming as an out-of-home experience, too.
Yeah.
So if we pull back again, what are the main things pushing this whole market forward? We've touched on some.
Yeah, the report kind of sums up the key drivers. There's definitely increasing demand for controllers that you can customize and ones that are more ergonomic for long play sessions. Tech advancements are big, better haptic feedback, better wireless. We mentioned cloud gaming and cross-platform compatibility, wanting a controller that works everywhere, and of course, the continued growth of esports.
Okay. Are there any brakes on this growth? Any major restraints?
The main one highlighted is cost. Especially for the really advanced controllers with all the bells and whistles, they can get pretty expensive, and that can be a barrier for some people, limiting affordability.
Right, those pro controllers aren't cheap. And what about key trends? Things we should really watch.
Two big ones stand out in the report. First, that demand for more sophisticated feedback haptics, adaptive triggers, things that make the game feel more real in your hand.
Adaptive triggers, like on the PS5 controller.
Exactly, where the trigger resistance changes, that kind of tech. Second trend is the ongoing move towards wireless and customizable controllers. People want freedom, and they want to personalize their gear.
Makes sense. And who are the big companies battling it out in this space?
Well, it's a very competitive market. You've got the giants, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, who dominate a lot through their own console controllers. They have that built-in advantage.
Right, the first-party controllers.
Yeah. But then you have significant third-party players, too. Companies like Logitech, Razer, Corsair, they make controllers mainly for PC, but also for consoles sometimes. They're all pushing innovation in features and design to compete.
So lots of competition driving things forward. Okay, just to quickly circle back on regions then, North America leads now, but APAC is the one to watch for speed.
That's the takeaway, yeah. North America's got the biggest slice currently, thanks to its strong gaming culture and spending power. But Asia-Pacific is where the fastest growth is happening, fueled by esports and just more and more people gaming.
Okay, I think we've covered a ton of ground here, a really good deep dive into this controller market. If you had to boil it down, what are the absolute key takeaways for our listeners?
Okay, four main things, I'd say. One, this market is set for really big growth, nearly doubling by 2033. Two, regionally, North America is the current leader, but watch Asia-Pacific for the fastest expansion. Three, external factors like trade tariffs are having an impact, shaking up supply chains and potentially prices. It's something companies have to navigate carefully. And four, the tech trends are clear towards wireless, towards more sophisticated feedback like haptics and adaptive triggers, and towards customization, serving both individuals and growing commercial uses like esports arenas.
Really fascinating. It paints a clear picture of how important these devices are and how they're evolving with gaming itself. Okay, so here's a final thought for you to maybe ponder on. How is this constant interplay between, tech advancements, changing gaming habits like cloud streaming, and these big global economic things like tariffs? How is that going to shape the next generation of controllers? What kind of weird or unexpected innovations might pop up in the next 10 years because of all these forces mixing together? Definitely something to think about.
Yeah, good question.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.